السلام عليكم. لا تنسوا الإعجاب بالفيديو والاشتراك في القناة. السلام عليكم. لا تنسوا الإعجاب بالفيديو والاشتراك في القناة.
Alright, so let's talk banners, specifically everything from version 5.6 to 5.8. There's actually a lot going on here, not just in terms of character releases, but also the bigger picture, how HoYoverse is changing rerun cycles, who's getting spotlighted, and even what this might mean for future regions. So whether you're here to plan your Primogem strategy, speculate about meta shifts, or just see if your favorite waifu is finally coming back, we've got a lot to unpack. Let's start with 5.6 because even though it's not officially confirmed, this patch is already shaping up to be one of the most packed lineups we've seen recently. According to HomDGCat, a source who, let's be honest, hasn't missed a single time, we're looking at 4 5-star characters: Escoffier, Kinich, Raiden Shogun, and Navia. And it doesn't stop there. He also shared the expected 4-star lineup: Ifa, Layla, Sarah, Toma, Lynette, and one more mystery character we haven't seen yet. Now, obviously, none of this is confirmed until HoYoverse drops the banners themselves, but considering how consistent this leaker has been, it's safe to say we're not just pulling this from thin air. So, what's interesting here? First, Escoffier. She's a new 5-star character, and that alone is going to draw attention. Pairing her with Kinich, a character we already met in Natlan, makes a lot of thematic sense. They both have ties to the current region, and Hoyo loves to keep things region-focused, especially early in the patch. That's why I'd personally bet that Escoffier and Kinich will show up in the first half. Meanwhile, Raiden Shogun and Navia will most likely be in the second phase. Again, that's not leaked, just a prediction. But if we look at past patterns, HoYoverse usually puts the new characters early to boost day one pull momentum. Raiden already had a rerun in 5.0, so a second rerun in the same region would be a bit unusual. And that's exactly why it's interesting. Maybe we're seeing a shift in how often Archons rotate, or maybe they're just setting up something else, like an Inazuma-focused chronicled wish, which I'll come back to when we talk about 5.8. Now jumping ahead to 5.7, and yeah, this is the one people have been waiting for: Skirk. After years of teasers, hidden dialogue, and that unforgettable scene with Child, she's finally stepping into the spotlight. But here's where it gets complicated. Skirk is a 5-star cryo sword user, designed as a stance-based on-field main DPS. Her elemental skill, Stickshade Sever, puts her into a special stance that consumes an energy bar to enhance normal attacks and allow her charged attacks to absorb something called Void Fissures, which then restores energy. Her elemental burst, Havoc, Destruction, is a powerful cryo slash that gets significantly stronger depending on how many Styxian crevice stacks she has. And those stacks? You only get them from Hydro or cryo teammates dealing damage. No Pyro, no Electro, just cryo and Hydro. This is where it gets a bit restrictive. If you love experimenting with team comps or using mixed elemental reactions, Skirk might feel a little boxed in. Her whole kit revolves around freeze, superconduct, cryoswirl, and crystallization. Even one of her passives specifically generates void fissures only when those reactions are triggered. On paper, that gives her a very clear identity. She's built for synergy, for tight cryo-hydro teams, and for players who don't mind giving up versatility in exchange for powerful single-target cryo damage. But for casual players, or anyone looking for a flexible unit, they can slot into any team. She might be a bit harder to justify. Her constellations also add more utility, like adding area of effect cryo damage on charged attacks and increasing how much energy she recovers. But again, that's assuming you're investing heavily. So in a way, Skirk feels like a character made for people who enjoy technical rotations and specialized setups. She's not trying to be the next Nouvelette, sweeping mobs off the map with huge area damage. Instead, she's a focused, finesse-style character. And honestly, that's pretty refreshing. Also worth noting, Dahlia is expected to be the featured 4-star in version 5.7. He's already been teased in the story and will appear as an NPC in version 5.6, so it would make a lot of sense for his playable debut to follow shortly after. As for the 5 stars, Skirk is the only one that's currently confirmed through beta. The others, Mualani, Emily, and Mavwika, are speculative, but there are some strong reasons to think they might show up. Emily's rerun, for example, has been long overdue. She hasn't appeared on any banners since her release in version 4.8, which makes her one of the few Fontaine characters who still hasn't had a rerun. Mualani, who debuted in 5.0, could also return if Hoyoverse continues the trend of rerunning every character introduced in the first half of a region before moving on to the next one. It's something they've consistently done in past regions, so skipping her now would be a break from that pattern. Then there's Mavwika. This is where things get a bit more speculative, but interesting. If she's released at the end of the 5.3 Archon quest as expected, then version 5.7 would line up perfectly for her first rerun. Every Archon so far, Venti, Zhongli, Raiden, Nahida, and almost Farina, has received a rerun exactly 3 patches after their debut. If Hoyo sticks to that structure, Mavwika would be next in line. But if they decide to delay her rerun, it would be the first time they break that pattern. What makes this setup especially painful is that if Mavwika end up in the same patch as Skirk, you'll be forced to choose. And having to pick between a long-awaited debut like Skirk and the Pyro Archon herself would be a pretty cruel move from Hoyo. But considering how stacked the upcoming lineup is looking, that kind of decision might be unavoidable. And now we hit 5.8, which should be the summer event patch. This is usually when Hoyo does something fun and themed. Golden Apple Archipelago style stuff, though we don't know the exact event yet. But one thing we can predict is Citlali's rerun. She was the last major character introduced in the early half of Natlan, and so far, Hoyo has made sure that all first-half regional characters get at least one rerun before the next region arrives. If Citlali doesn't get her rerun in 5.8, it would break that trend. Then there's the bigger picture, Inazuma. Raiden Shogun getting a rerun in 5.6 might actually be a hint that Hoyo is preparing an Inazuma chronicled wish, possibly in version 5.8. Think about it. Kokomi, Ayaka, Yoimiya, even Ayato, they've all been off the radar for quite a while. And with Raiden getting extra screen time in 5.6, it feels like a warm-up. Chronicled wishes tend to have themes, and if 5.8 brings back the Summer Island vibes, connecting it with Inazuma would be a pretty smart move. That said, this is all speculation. We don't have any official confirmation, but if you're someone holding out for those Inazuma reruns, 5.8 might just be your best shot. So overall, we've got a packed 3-patch window here. New characters like Escoffier, big reruns like Raiden and Mavwika, and long-awaited debuts like Skirk and possibly Emily. But we're also starting to see the structure of the region wrap up. With Natlan heading toward its conclusion, every new patch now feels like it's not just about the characters, it's setting the stage for what's coming next. Will Snezhnaya start in 6.0? Will we get more double reruns or chronicled wishes to deal with the overcrowded roster? Let me know what you think. Are you pulling for Skirk? Do you think Mavwika's rerun will stick to the 3-patch rule? And do you think we're getting an Inazuma banner wave before we hit the next region? Drop your thoughts below.